Okay, this is the Patreon section. Hi, hello. Let's talk about the Eridan versus Vriska debate. It's this debate going online about Jax about like is Jax a Vriska or is Jax an Eridan? And honestly, I think Jax is a Vriska, like 100%. And not just because she's a girl. I think it's also because of the fact that like Eridan is more of an incel in the sense that like he's like one of the OG incels, like in terms of in a piece of media. He is the type of character who feels like something is like owed to him, that he is owed something because of just his standing as like a high blood, right? And when he doesn't get his way, and then also when he realizes that nobody around him, especially the people of his affection, like abide by this caste system, he doesn't know what to do with that. And instead of like learning and growing and realizing that the caste system is fucked up and you probably shouldn't abide by it and that you will make friends better if you just throw all that shit away, instead he kind of like doubles and triples down out of like fear that like he will be made fun of, that people won't like him, etc, etc, etc. And in the same way with Jax, I see how people relate that to Jax, of just this idea that like I need to act before other people act upon me, and therefore I'm going to take that out. But most of it stems from this idea that he feels owed something. He feels owed power and respect because of the people, because of his caste system, because of his standing, right? And so therefore, I don't think that Jax necessarily fits that mold. However, I do think Jax fits the Vriska mold a lot more, because it's kind of the same thing, different font, where Vriska is a character who also believes that she has a role to fill, that because of her blood and because of her lineage and heritage, she has this like role to fill. And if she doesn't fill this role, then it's like bad. But the thing that I think is the difference is that while both of these characters act out in malice towards others because of their perceived role and what they believe themselves to be above other people, Vriska specifically makes friends with people and then decides, like out of fear or out of like realization that she should be acting her part or whatever, then decides to be actively malicious towards them. And this is where I think it relates more to Jax. Like she just chooses time and time again to be actively harassing and bullying like Tavros, and then turning that on somebody who is supposed to be her friend. So like Gangle would be Tavros in this situation, and Terezi would be Pomni in this situation, where like somebody who was supposed to be your very close friend and your like partner in crime or like whatever, now all of a sudden you're completely gonna turn the script and bully them, harass them, and like inevitably like kill them, right? Or I guess Ribbit would be the actually yeah wait no Terezi would be Ribbit in this situation, and then John, the person she comes to later, would be Pomni. So yeah, anyway, it's this idea that like you want something so bad, but like there's something inside of you telling you that like no, you can't have this is not for you, you can't have this. Anyway, that's just why I feel like Vriska is actually Jax. Now let's get into the rest of what I was gonna say. Which is, I hated Vriska as a kid. When I was a kid reading Homestuck, I absolutely hated Vriska. And that is because I knew a lot of girls like Vriska. People who would like become your friends, and then for whatever reason, whether it's because they had something going on at home or like whatever, would just immediately like turn on you and just become so like mean, whether it was out of jealousy or like whatever, they would just become so mean. And these are people who, it's like worse than regular bullying, because these are people who you thought were your friends. And so when I started reading Homestuck and I came across Vriska, oh my god, I had the biggest hate boner for her. I wanted her dead. Let me tell you, I literally wanted her dead. I was like, I hated anybody who liked Vriska. Like I was a lot like the people who hated Jax. Now granted, I kept that all that shit to myself. That's the difference. I never went online and actively harassed like Vriska stans or Vriska cosplayers or like whatever. I never did that shit. I kept that all in here. Okay, I journaled it out. I ranted to some friends. I never like, actively went after anybody who liked Vriska. But as I got older and Vriska started to get more and more time in the spotlight because Andrew Hussey really liked Vriska, like the parallels here are insane. She got more and more screen time. She even got to be like one of the main heroes in the end. Like as much as I was like, bitter about it, I had this conversation with a friend a while ago about another friend who was like exhibiting some bad behaviors and like had exhibited bad behaviors against me. And I was like, I want you to learn and grow and change. Not because I necessarily want to be your friend anymore, but because you can't live your life like this. Like as a human being, I still care about you one way or another. And I don't want you to live your life like this. You will never have friends if you continue to live your life like this. Like that's why I want you to learn and grow and change. If also for the fact that you don't hurt anybody else ever again in the way that you hurt me, right? I mentioned this in my other Patreon video about like racism and how like when people who seemingly learn and grow and change from being racist, it's like I don't care. I don't have to be there like when you learn and grow and change as a human being. I don't have to be there. I don't have to forgive you. I don't have to do any of that. But I still want you to learn and grow as a human being because I want you to stop being racist. Like, you know what I mean? I want you to learn and grow as a human being because you should be a better human being, you know? Anyway, that's kind of how I felt about like Vriska, is like, I did want Vriska to get character development at the end of the day. I think if I would ask my like 13-year-old self, I'd be like, no, fuck her. I want her to die in a hole. But like growing up and getting to like 16 when the Homestuck inevitably ended, I was like, oh no, I want Vriska to learn and grow as a character. I still don't like her. I don't like her. I don't like her as a character. And if I knew her in real life, I would hate the shit out of her. But I would want her to learn and grow as a human being to become just a better human being, or in this case, troll, right? And so that is how I think a lot of people were missing the point with Jax, is like, Jax, like, you don't have to like Jax. And you don't even have to be there or have sympathy or pity or anything like that. You don't have to care like about Jax, like in any way, shape, or form. You should want Jax to learn and grow and change and have development, because we should want that for everybody. And you know, you could be upset that like Jax got all the screen time or like whatever, but it's like at the end of the day, wouldn't you want the character to be better? Like, and I think the answer is that for some people, the answer is no. They just want this kind of like short and fried. Is that the right way to say it? This like this catharsis of like this really bad character having really bad things done to them. But this isn't like, you know, a show where a character is like just unequivocally bad and then they just need to die and then that be it, right? That's not this type of show. The show is about human beings being human beings together, all in one place, and like learning to be better together, right? So like someone like Jax just dying and that being it and being like, okay, we don't care about Jax anymore, that would not feel narratively satisfying. That would not also be narratively written very well, because that's not what the show is. If the show again was some sci-fi like grand adventure where like, especially even with Kane, because the same thing happened with Kane, right? Like Kane got to learn and grow from his mistakes and become better. Like people didn't want Kane just to die and that be it, right? Because we all knew there was some sympathy there. There was some like room for growth there. It's not like the villains of like certain cartoons where it's just like, this guy's bad and that's it. Like, and that's it. And sometimes there are times where it's just like, this guy's bad and needs to go. Cough, cough, president, cough, cough. But like sometimes, you know, this guy's just bad and it needs to go. But like there are sometimes, especially in shows like this that are more character driven, that's not the point. And especially with Homestuck, where it's a coming of age story for everybody, that includes Vriska. And some people were horrible as kids. And I hope that they can learn and grow and change and no longer be horrible as kids. Anyway, that's all I gotta say about that. This was like, oh my God. I forgot to mention about how the fact that like Vriska got all this character development, meanwhile my favorite character didn't. And I felt a really big parallel to like how like someone like Gangle didn't get a whole lot of character development or like just a lot to do in the show in general. Can you guess who my favorite character in Homestuck was / is? Yeah, it's Gamzee. Oh, whole nother conversation for another day. But like, I understand. I was Jax haters the way I was a Vriska hater the way that Jax haters are today, basically. But like learning and growing is learning and growing and realizing that these characters deserve development as well, because it's a coming of age story. Like, anyway,